So I spent the weekend, as I do every weekend, like watching TV, catching up on stuff. And today also Jacob Rothschild, I think he passed away yesterday. Rothschild. I grew up in a household where that name was familiar to me, and it was kind of explained to me from this vantage point because my dad was always big on doing connecting the dots like your dad, right? So imagine you have a family that has ruling interests in several countries. So we think about, even if you think about Russia, Germany, and Great Britain, three cousins during World War I, three cousins, somehow we're in a world war with three cousins all connected to the crown. And you think about even the rise of, Nazi Germany, that, even during World War II, there's like, my dad always was like, there's not sides as much as there are interests, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
so I think I'm online right now and I'm seeing a lot of people gleeful that Jacob Rothschild has made transition because that name is so powerful in people who study different things and want to, have a particular narrative. I'll say it like that.
mm.
But he kept his name. A lot of Rothschilds changed their name. A lot of Rothschilds didn't want to have nothing to do with being a Rothschild, which means Red House or something like that. And I was thinking about this, like maybe it's unfair that people are, wishing him good passage to hell and all of this stuff. And so I spent some time today because I feel like we follow the bouncing ball on social media or even in our homes without doing our own research, not like Tiffany Haddish getting on an airplane and going to Israel. But I'm saying like doing the study. I mean, you ain't just let your daddy tell you to recite these things. You actually went to Yale and you studied. You went and studied for yourself. I'm saying we need to study deeply with footnotes and things. So I didn't do that today, but I was like, I wanted to sit with him and listen to him. He said some things about the climate change, which I thought were interesting. And then I wanted to land on the formation of Israel because a lot of people are like blaming the House of Rothschild for the formation of Israel, and perhaps that is true. But as all things form, the intent doesn't necessarily land. And I want to ask you this question about the sins of the father and what are our responsibility? What's my responsibility, your responsibility? If you were born into a legacy, what is your responsibility to both reject it or to are you responsible for that? We put that on the crown right now. I'm looking at them and the monarchy. I'm like, do we need this on? At some point, somebody needs to reject this. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was great that this happened with Meghan and Harry. So I'm gonna play a clip, and I think in light of a soldier setting himself on fire. I mean, there's so much going on in the world. A man set himself on fire in protest of what's going on in the Gaza Strip. Set
Mm,
himself on fire and he
mm,
died today.
mm,
He's
mm,
dead, right? An American
mhm.
soldier in
Yeah.
uniform set himself on fire in front of the embassy. And I'm like, my goodness. So I'm gonna play this Jacob Rothschild clip. He's 89, I think, when he made transition. And they're talking, he's being interviewed by, I guess, a British journalist about his uncle, great uncle, Lord Rothschild, Walter Rothschild. And Walter Rothschild was petitioned by this man, and I'm bringing this up in a certain kind of way. A man who came to them, a poor man who had an incredible amount of passion around having a state for Israel to have its own nation.
Mhm.
And so somehow through charm, and you'll hear in the clip, he got in with the Rothschilds because he understood where the power was. I always tell my students, know where the power is, because that's important. And I'm saying power sometimes is agnostic, meaning
Mm.
I've had this conversation with Daniel Black too. If you put something out in the universe, it's not gonna say, well, I know what you mean. It's gonna do, oh, I'm tired, or I can't do this. The universe like, okay, you can't. I'm gonna grant you your wish because you put it out, you cast the spell. I'm saying that, if you petition somebody with a good idea and you get in and they do it and they don't execute, because to execute a good idea also, requires something. I don't know what the responsibility is, but I'm gonna play the clip and then I want to have a discussion with you, Otis
All
Martha
right.
Third. And I see you writing some stuff down, and I'm just trying to walk a tightrope. And I'm gonna do it though. I'm gonna do it because I can, because the intention is everything. All right, play the clip.
It was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was, after all, in Great Britain. So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist. And those really are the background reasons.
So Walter received the Balfour Declaration, and I have a copy here. And I wonder if I could possibly ask you to read it for us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I'm going to put on my spectacles to make sure I read it accurately. His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
And here it is, the Balfour Declaration. What do you feel when you see it here?
I genuinely feel it's one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of the Jewish people. If you think it took 3,000 years to get to this, and then you say, how did this miracle happen? It's the most incredible piece of opportunism. I mean, if you think you had an impoverished would-be scientist, Chaim Weizmann, who somehow gets to England, meets a few people, including members of my family, seduces them. He has such great charm and conviction. He gets to Balfour, and he unbelievably persuades Balfour and Lloyd George, the Prime Minister, and most of the ministers, that this idea of the national home for Jews should be allowed to take place. I mean, it's so unlikely. And then he's, starts to fight a difficult battle with the British cabinet, and this letter goes through 5 drafts, as you know. And in the end, it comes out as a rather compromising letter. I mean, the essential point is there for the Jewish community to fasten on to. You have the first bit, which promises a national home rather than the national home. And then you have the bit that nothing that's to be done should in any way harm the Arab community. But you come back to the big point, which is that this is perhaps the greatest event in Jewish life for thousands of years.
Mm. I'm going in a different direction than most would with this clip. First, I want to land on this scientist who gets to a place. He has a burning desire to have this home. He recognizes the only way to get it done is to convince power, the people who hold the levers of power to make it happen. He gets in with power on all fronts, not just the British government, but also the folk that may lead, the shadow government. Let's call it that, right? That, and he calls it seducing. He seduces all, and then it goes through 5 drafts, but he never quits and makes compromises within that draft. And among that, I also want to bring out, that no harm should be done to the people who are already there. Clearly, they're in violation of this very agreement that was put and codified and behind glass right now that everyone can read. But I think about that in the wake of all of the things that a lot of us want to get done collectively, politically. There is to me, a blueprint for how you can do that, and it doesn't require you to be anything special. I think he was special, a special scientist with an unwillingness to accept no. But a lot of us have that. Maybe not the scientist part, but a lot of us have that. Poor man, wasn't rich, but somehow figured out how to get in to get something done, not for himself, but for his people. So I want to lay that out today because I feel like a lot of things need to get done. And
Yes.
We have various different ways that we think things should get done, but this got done. 866-801-8255. What are your thoughts, Reverend Doctor?
Well, I think when you talk about the formation of Israel, you really have to talk about the Balfour Declaration, number one. When you're talking about the formation of spaces of free agency for Black people, you have to add an extra hurdle, and that hurdle is white supremacy. The idea of anti-Semitism, but Jewish people still being able to move about in European society, except by name. If you know the last name, oh, that person is Jewish. Whereas specifically for Black people, we were brought to North America because our skin was to be a stamp of identification. And so there is several levels that we have to do if we are to have our African declaration, our Garvey declaration, whatever it may be, that particular declaration. One is we have to unravel the mythos of what it is to be a person of African descent, that we are in some way inferior. Number two, we have to unwrap the mythos that we think white people have some type of magic dust or something of that nature, that there's certain things that we cannot do. The next piece is that we then have to work across the lines of institutions and disciplines. This isn't about someone being in charge. This is about creating legacy for generations that are yet to be born. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen on our watch. The Balfour Declaration, 1917. The formation of Israel is not till 1948. The idea of Zionism comes about in the 1800s. The idea of a Zionist state does not come about until 1948. So our project has to be multiple generations. And then with that project, we have to recognize the connectivity with other communities. And when I say connectivity, I'm talking about connectivity, Palestinian people. I'm talking about connectivity with other African communities, with Asian communities, things of that nature. But I'm reminded of Haiti. Haiti was to be what we consider to be Israel for Black people. When Toussaint Louverture kicked the French out, and they had such a loss that Napoleon said, well, let me sell the Louisiana territory because we lost $40 million and these Black folk kicked our tail. They were seeking to build a relationship, guess what, with Belize, with Mexico, with other people of African descent, and on the shores of South Carolina, Louisiana, Alabama, and other places, to be the free place of a free territory for Black people. What then happens? The French have a relationship with the U.S., and a blockade happens in Haiti that specifically says any country that builds a treaty with Haiti will deal with the wrath of the French and of the U.S. So the hurdle of white supremacy, because this little man named Napoleon was so embarrassed that some brothers took him out. He was attempting to, in many ways, shut down the possibility of this free state that wanted to free other Black people. This is a generational project. This is not a one-day work.
No, and I was going to, piggyback on that, and the difference among others. I'm just positing I'm putting out a question, but also planting a seed. Those folk in Haiti were enslaved in some horrific conditions, right?
Yes.
And to free themselves in the wake of that with no unifying flag, no unifying religion, no unifying language, which is something that Judaism can be, like the Hebrews, we can go all the way back. There's a language, there's a culture, there's a set of rules, there's a doctrine. They had none of that other than we wanted to be free. So I'm sure that there were arguments, even after because I'll be damned if you get reparations from me. I'm just saying, ain't no way in hell, no way, no how. We just went through that. You get money too? Come get it. And we got to level this whole place. Let's go. But I'm sure that was a negotiation because, let's try to at least have, we already know. And also not having hundreds of years of study to know that these people were going to do exactly what they did, which is to not honor anything that they say. So you move a little differently. So I'm going to give Haiti and the Haitians and the leadership there a lot of grace, because for them to even shock the world was an act of something supernatural. So I'm going to leave that there. 866-801-8255. We're going to have a conversation. I want to have these conversations because, as you listen to Urban View, you're going to get the news of the day, because the commitment of the folk on this channel is unmatched. So, you're going to get some Best of Joe right now. You're going to get Larry, Clay, Reese. They're going to bring all of that. When you get to me at 3:00, I want to sit with some things. And, I'm very intentional about helping us work through without hyperbole, without emotion, even though that's going to be tough, and without talking points. I'm working this out in real time, because I sat with this weekend. I started watching something called The New Look on Apple TV. Is it Apple? Yeah, Apple TV. Why? Because I have a clothing line, right? So I watched The House of Gucci. So this was kind of the story of who the hell? Now hold on 1 second. Hold on, not Coco Chanel. Who was it? Christian. Come on, Karen. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Christian Dior.
Christian Dior. Thank you, Christian Dior. Right. So it's his story. So I thought I was going to be introduced to how, because my question always is, Dr. Moss the third. How did you become that to this day we still why Gucci, why Louis, why Halston, or because I watched that too. Why Christian Dior, Tiffany's? Everything started somewhere. They didn't come out the womb greatness was built, or branding was branded a long time ago, and then we codify it because we place value. We place value on diamonds that are not the most precious or rare.
Right.
That's marketing. It's all marketing, right? But it's genius marketing too, because it has cross generations, and now it's we all want to have Louis Vuitton luggage, 866-801-8255. So I watched it, Reverend Otis Moss III. With that in mind, I'm going to learn something, because even in a movie, there's some nuggets that I can pull. But why did it take me to Nazi Germany? So I'm sitting there Coco Chanel. So at first I'm she's not trying to have, because the Nazis took over Paris and the fashion industry. And now Christian Dior is confronted with, even though he's not told he's making gowns for the Nazi wives, he's not told that. He knows it. And there's a resistance going on. Shout out to Araya from Game of Thrones. She's in it. She plays his sister. And Coco Chanel is battling because the people that she was in partnership with were Jewish, and they moved to New York and took her business. So there's this backdrop, and she's angry, but she ain't trying to be down with the Nazis at the same time. So somebody coerces her into a dinner, and she doesn't know who she's having dinner with. And I'm giving away a lot right now, but this is in the first episode. I apologize, but I'm getting to a place because I don't think that Reverend Otis Moss III is going to watch The New Look. So she goes, they invite her to dinner. She goes and shows up, and she's at the table with Himmler. And she's like, oh, damn. It's I'm sitting at the table with the chief architect of the Nazi regime. And they're, and he's like, oh, you want your business back? I can help with that. These people are Jewish. These people, your business partners are Jewish. So he's going through this thing, and I'm going to read because I had to write this down. So as they're at the table talking, he says to her, are you aware of the Aryan laws? And she's like, no. And he said, it's something the Fuhrer and I understood very early in our efforts, is that in order to exterminate Jewishness, we must first eliminate any sense of belonging they may have. He said, we have to first eliminate any sense of belonging. And I said, had to sit up. I was like, okay, you just eloquently pointed out our skin did that automatically. I got a reverse engineer thought for that, though. He said, in order to exterminate Jewishness, we must first eliminate any sense of belonging they may have. We do that by depriving them of what they own. It can be their art. It can be their homes. He said, for example, and then moving on, can you guess what comes next? So I'm thinking their lives, right? I'm thinking, yeah, no, not their lives, their dignity, their hope, their souls. You keep your funky life. I'm going to take everything else. And he said, the Aryan laws permit us to take what we want from a Jew. So he offers her this as, because I want Germany to be, and it was wild because they have done none of the work. They have none of the creativity. They have none of the insight, vision, wisdom, institutional knowledge, legacy, but they want to be the center of fashion in Germany. So what they're going to do is collect Coco Chanel and Christian Dior, Balenciaga, and all of these people and plant them here under duress, of course, because ain't nobody willingly, well, maybe people willingly, but I thought about that too. I was like, do you think that you are talented if you take the talent of other people? Do you believe that somehow by taking somebody else's gifts that they're now yours and that you can duplicate that? And the answer obviously is yes, because we see it every day, but it is a fallacy. And then the notion that this is how you destroy a people, eliminate their sense of belonging,
right?
Destroy that. And then you take their dignity, you strip them of that, right? Then you take their hope and then their souls. And I think about how masterful that is. But where did they get this notion? Otis Moss III?
From the U.S.
Tell them where they got it.
They studied the United States. So Germans come to the United States. They study the Jim Crow laws. They understand how the post-Reconstruction period was set up. And they come back to Germany and they want to be an architect in and around how do we do what the U.S. does. The U.S. was the teacher. South Africa, same thing. They study and they found out one thing. They said, we got to change the Constitution because we don't want Black people to appeal to the Constitution. So we must write them completely out of the Constitution. America has been the teacher of white supremacy, caste, class for generations, and that is just a fact that we have to engage. The other thing is the Aryan community was operating as a cultural parasite, where they draw in and take from others and then make the claim it is ours. What do we witness in the United States? The kind of cultural parasitic operation that says this is mine. We have young people today that actually think white people started jazz. It's like
country music. All right,
country music. They think a banjo is something from the Appalachian region. That's an African instrument from Mali.